hippie weirdos. They broke into my house.
What do you mean, like trying to rob you?
We don't know what the fuck they wanted. Were they robbing me? I don't know. Were they freaking out on some bummer trip?
One evening, as I was lying flat on the deck of my steamboat, I heard voices approaching, and there were the nephew and the uncle strolling along the bank. I laid my head on my arms again, and had nearly lost myself in a doze when somebody said in my ear, as it were, "I'm as harmless as a little child, but I don't like to be dictated to. Am I the manager or am I not?" I was ordered to send him there. It's incredible. I became aware that the two were standing on the shore, along with the forepart of the steamboat just below my head. I did not move. It did not occur to me to move. I was sleepy. It is unpleasant, grunted the uncle. He has asked the administration to be sent there, said the other, with the idea of showing what he could do, and I was instructed accordingly. Look at the influence that men must have. Is it not frightful? They both agreed it was frightful, then made several bizarre remarks. Make rain in fine weather, one man the council by the nose. Bits of absurd sentences that got the better of my drowsiness, so that I had pretty near the whole of my wits about me when the uncle said, "The climate may do away with this difficulty for you." "Is he alone there?" "Yes," answered the manager. He sent his assistant down the river with a note to me in these terms: "Clear this poor devil out of the country, and don't bother sending more of that sort. I had rather be alone than have the kind of men you can dispose of with me." It was more than a year ago. Can you imagine such impudence? "Anything since then?" asked the other hoarsely. "Ivory," jerked the nephew. "Lots of it. Prime source. Lots most annoying from him." "Yeah, and with that," questioned the heavy rumble in voice, was the reply fired out, so to speak. The silence they had been talking about cuts. Yeah, I was broad awake by this time, but lying perfectly at ease. Remained still, having no inducement to change my position. "How did the ivory come all this way?" growled the elder man, who seemed very vexed. The other explained that it had come with the fleet of canoes in charge of the English half-caste clerk Kurtz had with him. That Kurtz had apparently intended to return himself, the station being that by the time bearer of the goods in stores, but after coming 300 miles, had suddenly decided to go back, which he started to do alone in a small dugout with 4 paddlers, leaving the half-caste to continue down the river with the ivory. The two fellows there seemed astounded at anybody attempting such a thing. They were at a loss for an adequate motive. As to me, I seemed to see Kurt for the first time. It was a distinct glimpse of the dugout, 4 paddling savages, and the lone white man turning his back suddenly on the headquarters, on relief, on thoughts of home, perhaps setting his face towards the depth of the wilderness, towards his empty and desolate station. I did not know the motive. Perhaps he was just simply a fine fellow who stuck to his work for its own sake. His name, you understand, had not been pronounced once. He was that man, the half-caste who, as far as I could see, had conducted a difficult trip with great prudence and pluck, was invariably alluded to as that scoundrel. The scoundrel had reported that the man had been very ill, had recovered imperfectly. The two below me moved away when a few paces and strolled back and forth at some little distance. I heard military post, doctor who 200 miles, quite long now, unavoidable delays. 9 months, no news, strange rumors. They approached again just as the manager was saying. No one, as far as I know, unless a species of wandering trader, a pestilential fellow snapping ivory from the natives. Who was it they were talking about now? I gathered in snatches that this was some man supposed. Be in Kurt's district, and of whom the manager did not approve. We will not be free from unfair competition to one of these fellows is saying for an example. He said, certainly, grunted the other, get him hanged. Why not? Anything can be done in this country. That's what I say. Nobody here, you understand, here can endanger your position, and while you stand the climate, you outlast them all. The danger is in Europe, but there before I left, I took care too. They moved off and whispered, then voices rose again. The extraordinary series of delays is not my fault. I did my best. The fat man sighed, very sad, and the furious absurdity of his talk continued the other. He bothered me enough when he was here. Each station should be like a beacon on the road towards better things. A center for trade, of course, but also for humanizing, improving, instructing, deceiving you the ass. Yeah, no, he wants to be manager? No, it's here to get choked by excessive indignation and lifted my head the least bit. I was surprised to see how near they were, right under me. I could have been spat upon their hands. They were licking on the ground, absorbed in thoughts. The manager was switching his leg with a slender twig. His sagacious relative lifted his head. You have been well since you came out this time, he asked. The other gave a start. Who are I? Oh, like a charm. Like a charm, but the rest, oh my goodness, all sick. They die so quick too that I haven't the time to send them out of the country. It's incredible. I'm a shiner, put on a shiner, just so, grunted the uncle. My boy, trust to this. I say trust to this. I saw him extend his short ripple of an arm for the gestures that took in the forest, the creek, the mud, the river seemed to beckon with his dishonoring flourish before the sunlit face of the land as treacherous appealed to the lurking death, to the hidden evil, to the profound darkness of its heart. It was so startling that I leaped to my feet and looked back at the edge of the forest as though I had suspected an answer of some sort of that black display of confidence. You know, the foolish notion that comes to one sometimes. The high students confronted these two figures with his ominous patience, waiting for the passing away with a fantastic invasion. They swore aloud together, out of sheer fright. I believed them, pretending not to know anything of my existence. Turned back to the station. The sun was low, the leaning forward side by side. They seemed to be tugging painfully uphill. There are two ridiculous shadows of unequal length that trailed behind them slowly over the tall grass without bending a single blade. In a few days, the El Dorado expedition went into the patience wilderness that closed upon us as the sea closes over the diver. Long afterwards, the news came that all the donkeys were dead. I know nothing as to the fate of the less valuable animals. They, no doubt, like the rest of us, found that they deserved. I did not inquire. I was then rather excited at the prospect of meeting Kurtz very soon. When I say very soon, I mean comparatively, it was just 2 months from the days we left the creek. When we came to the bank below Kurt's station, going up that river was like traveling back to the earliest beginnings of the world, when vegetation drier on the earth and the big trees were kings. An empty stream of great silence, an impenetrable forest. The air was warm, thick, heavy, sluggish. There was no joy and brilliance of sunshine. The long stretches of the waterway ran on deserted into the gloom of overshadowed distances. On silvery sandbanks, hippos and alligators sunned themselves side by side. The broadening waters flowed through a mob of wooded island. You lost your way on that river as you would in a desert, and buttered all day long against shores, trying to find the channel, till you thought yourself bewitched and cut off forever from everything you had known once, somewhere far away in another existence. Perhaps there were moments when one's past came back to one, as will sometimes when you have not a moment to spare for yourself, but it came in the shape of an unrestful and noisy dream. Remember with wonder amongst the overwhelming realities of the strange world of plants and water and silence, and the stillness of life did not in the least resemble a peace. It was the stillness of an implacable force brooding over an inscrutable intention. It looked at you with a vengeful aspect. I got used to it afterwards. I did not see it anymore. I had no time. I had to keep guessing at the channel. I had to discern mostly by inspiration the signs of hidden banks. I watched for sunken stones. I was learning to clap my feet smartly before my heart flew out when I shaved by a flick some infernal sly old snag that would have ripped the life out of the tin pot. Steamboats and drowned all the pilgrims. I had to keep a lookout for the signs of dead wood we could cut up in the right night for the next day's steaming. When you have to attend to things of that sort, to the more incidents of the surface, the reality I tell you fades. The inner truth is hidden. Luckily, but I felt it all the same. I felt often its mysterious stillness watching me at my monkey tricks, just as the watches you fellow performing on your respective tight ropes for what is it, half a crown a tumble.
Fire and smoke, keep watching over.
What is it? Half a crown a tumble? Try to be civil, Marlowe, drawled a voice, and I knew there was at least one listener awake besides myself. I beg your pardon, I forgot the heartache which makes up the rest of the price. And indeed, what does the price matter if the trick be well done? You do your tricks very well, and I didn't do badly either, since I managed not to sink that steamboat on my first trip. It's wonder to me yet imagine a blindfolded man set to drive a van over a bad road. I sweated and shivered over that business considerably. I can tell you, after all, for seamen to scrape the bottom of the things that's supposed to float all the time under the scale is an unpardonable sin. Unpardonable sin. No one may know of it, but you never forget the thump. Hey, I blow on the very heart. You remember it, you dream of it. You wake up at night and think of it. Years after and go hot and cold and all over. I don't pretend to say that steamboat floated all the time. More than once she had to wait for a bit, with 20 cannonballs splashing around and pushing. We had enlisted some of these chaps on the way for his crew. Fine fellows, cannibals. In the place they were men one could work with, and I'm grateful to them. And after all, they did not eat each other before my face. They had brought along a provision of hippo meat, which went rotten, and made the mystery of the wilderness sting in my nostril. For I can sniff it now. I had the manager on board and 3 or 4 pilgrims with their staff, all complete. Sometimes we came upon a station close by the bank, clinging to the skirts of the unknown, and the white man rushing out of a tumble-down hovel with great gestures of joy and surprise and welcome seemed very strange, and the appearance of being held there captive by a spell. The word ivory would ring in the air for a while, and on we went again into the silence, along empty reaches, brown as steel bends, between the high walls of our winding way, reverberating in hollow claps upon the red speed of the third wheel. Trees, millions of trees, massive, immense, running up and high, and at their foot, hugging the bank against the stream, crept a little pea-growing steamboat, like a sluggish beetle crawling on the floor of a lofty portico. I made you feel very small, very lost, and yet it was not altogether depressing. That feeling, after all, if you were small, the grimy beetle crawled on, which was just what you wanted it to do. Where the pilgrim imagined it crawled to, I don't know. To some place where they expected to get something. I bet for me it crawled towards Curtis exclusively, but when the steam pipe started leaking, we crawled very slow. The reaches opened before us and closed behind, as if the forest had stepped leisurely across the water to bar the way for our return. We penetrated deeper and deeper to the heart of darkness. It was very quiet there. At night, sometimes the row of drums behind the curtains of trees would run up the river and remain 16 faintly, as if hovering in the air, high over our heads to the first break of day. Whether the men wore peace or prayer, we could not tell. The dawns were heralded by the descent of a chill stillness. The woodcutter slept, the fires burned low. Snapping of a twig would make you start. We were wanderers on the prehistoric earth, on an earth that were the aspect of an unknown planet. We cannot fancy ourselves first of men taking possession of an accursed inheritance, to be subdued at the cost of profound anguish and of excessive toil. But suddenly, as we struggled round the bend, there would be a glimpse of brush falls, of peak grass roofs, a burst of yells, a whir of black lips, a mass of hands clapping, of feet stamping, of bodies swaying, of eyes rolling under the droop of heavy and motionless foliage. The steamer toiled along slowly on the edge of a black and incomprehensible frenzy. The prehistoric man was cursing us, praying to us, welcoming us. Who could tell? We were cut off from the comprehensions of our surroundings.